Mitch Marner's in the spotlight, even though he's put up points. I think he's got, what does he have?
6 points.
6 points in 6 games. So he's on base
and
for
he's playing a ton of minutes.
Killing penalties, first power play, which would be expected, but 5-on-5, he's getting a lot of minutes. But you've lived here your whole life. You're familiar with the market. You compound the way he's playing, which I don't think he's playing well, even with the minutes and the points. 5-on-5, I do not think he's been effective.
No.
And the contract.
Not as dynamic as he normally is.
Right. You know he's got more to give. And eventually he will get there. But this is where, a Toronto kid lives in Toronto during the summer. He can say he was up in Muskoka and offline all he wants. I don't believe that. Do you think it could be the psychology that could be factoring in
I
here
just
a
think
little bit,
that whole first line is just not in sync. I mean, Tavares is,
he's right there too with Marner.
He's in the same boat. He's in the same boat, and so some people would say, "Oh, Marner is off to a slow start because of the contract and everything that went with it," or that Tavares is off to a slow start because he's got the captaincy, or they're both off to a slow start because Hyman's out and people didn't appreciate Hyman. Of those three, I would think the latter might be the most true, just in terms of the way the line's constructed. Right. Kapanen's really grinding the gears, hasn't played particularly well. And one of the things that I'm curious about, and I'm not holding my breath, but with that line not being in sync, and Mikheyev playing as well as he's played on that line with Kerfoot and Moore on the third line, I've just wondered, would Mike Babcock even consider the idea of bumping Mikheyev up to the Tavares Marner line? Because he more duplicates the kind of game that Hyman does. He's not purely as heavy, but he's a big puck protection guy down low, and slip Kapanen back down the lineup a little bit. Now, the risk you run is the third line's been on fire, and it's been great. So now you might be screwing up your third line. You might not get the results with Mikheyev on the Tavares-Marner line, and so now you've screwed up two lines instead of one of them just being screwed up.
Crazy thought, but I'm watching Tampa the other night. So I watch them against the Leafs, and then I do the Ottawa game. Stamkos, Point, and Kucherov.
All loaded up.
But would Babs even think, like, this is out of the... but why not throw Matthews, Tavares, and Marner? Like, why not give a different look of three top players going over the boards for 20 minutes or 18 to 20 minutes? Like, there's still enough depth there, and I know it, but when Point came back that first night, I'm thinking that's the best line in hockey right there in Tampa with Stamkos, Kucherov. Yeah. Now, Stamkos can play center and so can Point, but like I don't know. Would it not scare a team?
Well, how about try it during the game?
That's what I'm saying.
But maybe in game. But the problem they would say is that they don't want to play Nylander at center.
Right.
On the second line, and if you move Matthews up to that top spot, now you don't have a second line center unless you put Nylander in there, or unless you move Kerfoot up, and
like,
and that's I think it creates too much of a ripple effect. But
it could. But
the salary cap line.
But I'm just
$33 million on one line.
All I'm saying is that if I'm an opposing player, I'm looking at the whiteboard. I went in the other day, and Ottawa's dressing room, it had Tampa's lineup there. Now, Cirelli's a really good player.
Yeah, he is.
Really.
And that's why Tampa doesn't feel like loading Point and Stamkos on the same line is going to disadvantage them, because Cirelli can now play second-line center in the National Hockey League, and Tyler Johnson, as he's gotten older, who used to be the prototypical second-line center, can now slide down to number 3. So they've got strength down the middle. I think the Leaf argument would be if we move Matthews to the wing with those guys, that we don't have strength down the middle, because now we're moving Nylander there, and we don't like Nylander at center.
Which is fair, but I just, again, from an optic standpoint...
But how about not even the whiteboard? Like, again, during the game, you're like, boys, let's go. I'm going to mix in another shift for Matthews.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, you can get
He never does that.
You can double shift a player if they can handle it. Austin Matthews can handle a double shift at some point.
Especially with those players, he'll be dying to get over the board.
To me, it's not only in optics, but if I'm playing against them, it's tough to shut down. Like, I watched, and I know Tampa lost, but that night against Toronto, they had no answer for that top line, because
the thing of it is, But the thing of it is, if Tavares, forget about who's on the wing with Tavares and Marner.
Right.
If they're playing as well as they can.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not even an issue. So I think the bigger issue is putting Matthews up there might light a fire under Tavares and Marner, but it might not. And if it doesn't, now you don't have a credible second line.
Yeah, exactly.
So the key here is that the captain and Mitch need to be a lot better.
Yeah.
In-game adjustments, though, he just is not. It's not his thing, man. Babcock is not interested in doing it. Like Mikheyev is a perfect example. Doesn't have to be a 3-day practice routine and then let the world know that that's where he's going up, and then he's got to talk to the media about it. Then Kapanen's got to deal with, why were you demoted? Why do you think it didn't work?
Right.
How about you get into the game and then you say, I'm going to shuffle a couple of things up? Every other coach seems to do that. Babcock's not a guy that believes in it.
Watching Boston, I remember Jake DeBrusk struggling a little bit and then pushing him around the lineup. Pasternak, they got him off that top line and pushed him down. Again, depth and strength down the middle can obviously,
I'll be interested if they leave Kapanen where he is with Marner and Tavares, and they get Hyman back, and Hyman goes in, and Moore is still playing well on the third line. I'll be interested to see whether Kapanen would automatically go to the third line and displace Moore, or whether Mike might say, you started last year as a fourth liner and you finished really well. Maybe you need to go back to the fourth line.
Yeah.
Be curious to see, and that's if Kapanen continues to struggle. But as for in-game adjustments, I'm making one. I got to go do a game.
Yeah,
there you go.
Go ahead.
Have a good one.
Go do your thing. Bob McKenzie going over to do the panel. Yeah, Kapanen
Bob's doing show prep, by the way. That's why I didn't
I know.
come back.
Oh, he said in the break, he's like, well, why is Bob coming over here? I'm not coming back.
He's talking to Rennie Fasel.
Yeah, I would like his,
Yeah, he's prepping for the World Juniors.
His show prep is second to none.
Kapanen with Jean Beligote. I could see that happening.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people in the league that would love to play shotgun with Jean Beligote the way he's been playing recently.
That's true. You could put him there.
Yeah, you could. They got options, but I'd just love to see some in-game adjustments, man. It doesn't have to be the build-up, especially in this market. That's the whole thing. Like it's you don't have to say, Kapanen, you've got to go out and answer for why it didn't work and go explain why I put you on the fourth line. Do it within the game, ease into it, and then afterwards explain it if it works out. And if it doesn't, you revert back to the way it was anyway.
But you don't have to explain it if it's 2 shifts. If a guy misses a shift cycle once or twice or gets moved around, all it is a coach going, that guy's going tonight, that line's not going as much. I put him together with them, or I pulled him off the line. That's what coaching is.
Well,
and Mike's a good coach. Like I know
but he's a stubborn coach. He makes up his mind on lines. He makes up on his mind on a game plan. He works his ass off up until the puck drops, and then he goes, this is what we're doing.
Right.
Like, this is what we're doing. I'm playing you here. I'm playing you there. Now, things change based on injuries, penalties,
I get
flow
that.
of the game. But for the most part, he stays committed to whatever he had planned a second before the puck dropped. But I love your idea of find Matthews an extra 3 or 4 shifts and put him with Tavares and Marner.
But if you didn't feel like Kapanen's giving them what they want, maybe it's a guy like Matthews who sparks them, and they go, oh, you know what? I'm going to get him the puck. Like, it's just, to me, it's a different look, and sometimes new can rejuvenate.
I think sparking can be a part of it. Another part of it can just be greed.
Yeah.
Look at, these are our 3 best forwards. You're going out to play a couple of shifts. Every night you're going to play 5. We're going to scatter in 5 shifts with the 3 of you.
It caught me off guard when Point came back and I saw the lineup, just those 3 together. And I know Cirelli is elevated. Bob laid it out. They have the flexibility to do that because they have depth. But
he's not Mark Messier. I mean, it's not like Cirelli. No, he's a good player.
But what I'm saying is, they tried it, and it's it may not. You can argue whether Tampa's good or not. I mean, early on they've been just kind of mediocre as far as expectations. But what I'm saying is looking at that line. If I was playing against them that night, there would have been a second thought going, that's who's coming over the boards for 18 to 20 minutes tonight.
Yeah,
now, again,
it's a tough matchup.
In-game adjustments, if I'm a goalie and I look up and I see Matthews, Tavares, and Marner, whether it's a line change or not, the 3 best players are on the ice, should be able to do something.
But that's another thing. Babcock believes the third guy has to be a grit grinder that goes into the corners, that checks. That's the Hyman role.
Right.
That's what he wants out of Kapanen when Hyman's not there. That's what he likes about Mikheyev. And I think he would say 3 guys that are skilled, but who's going to go get the puck?
Right.
But it's not the 1980s anymore. You know,
that's true.
And you rely on your best players to go out there and prove. It's actually a great test, and you should make them go out there and prove that they can do that. For $11 million a year, your priority is not necessarily forechecking all the time, but you should be able to do it.
Yes,
you have to be able to do it. You're in the NHL.